I'm with Jeffrey Hodges, who's the founder and leader of the Civil Liberties and Consumer Rights Party here in Queensland, which is a new political party. Now, I have to ask Jeffrey, why did you name the party Civil Liberties and Consumer Rights?
Well, the most important thing that we can have as human beings is our freedoms and our liberties. And those freedoms and liberties are under threat at the moment. In particular, they're under threat from a number of areas where we see increasing government involvement in our lives, more and more. There's more and more regulation in our government. There's more and more things that we aren't allowed to do. There's also an increasing despotism or Hitlerism. What do you had here? Hitlerism in our medical profession, where people are being forced to take vaccinations or whatever, forced medications, regardless of whether they want to or not. And if we look at things as simple as fluoridation of our water, this is a forced medication of the entire populace that we have no say in whatsoever.
Yes, this seems to be a trend which is particularly prevalent in America, and it seems almost as if Australia is following in that vein of thinking.
Yeah, very much so. And what this vein of thinking is coming from is a increasing desire for corporate interests to control our lives. So you're seeing congregation or big corporations buying up each other, so you're having fewer and fewer corporations which control more and more of the resources and more influence in our society. And so we're seeing a corporatization of our society from what used to be a relatively free democratic society is becoming a corporatized society, or what I would call a corporatocracy, where government is no longer government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's government by big corporations, for big corporations, for the benefit of big corporations. And those big corporations are owned by a wealthy few people. And we're seeing increasingly a situation where the gap between the rich and poor is becoming more and more wider. And this is a dangerous trend for society, because there's been so much research that's shown that the wider the gap is between rich and poor, the worse it is for society. So societies such as America, where you have a huge difference between the rich and the poor, are really very dysfunctional and sick societies. And it's bad for the wealthy as well, because what happens in those societies is the poor become so poor that they turn to crime. And then the wealthy have to live in, compounds virtually. And so you have a police state. And this is what is tending to happen, and this is what the corporations want. They want a police state. They want to control our freedoms. They want to control us as individuals, because the individual and the individual freedom is anathema to corporate control.
Yes, and certainly in terms of our own personal health, I think most people would agree that we should have the right to determine what goes into our bodies in terms of medications or additives to things like water and so on.
Yeah, I think it might have been Benjamin Franklin, or one of the founders of the American Revolution. He said that the ability of the state to control our lives ends at the skin. So we don't, we want to have the ability to say what goes into our skin or into our body. That's ultimately our personal freedom. Yeah. And these civil liberties are something that we want to fight for, and we must do so, otherwise we'll just become slaves.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. That explains it. Thank you.